Am I the a-hole for refusing to save the secret sister-born from my dad's affair? Throw away for obvious reasons. I'm 23F, and I'm honestly wrecked, but I need to know if I'm the monster my paternal grandparents, let's call them Grandpa and Grandma P, are painting me as. I've tried to be clinical, but this whole situation is just a fresh wave of acid on scars that never truly healed. The context is crucial, and it's where the rot started. When I was 15, my life was cleaved in two. My mom, my anchor, my everything, was diagnosed with an aggressive, highly malignant brain tumor. For 9 grueling months, we were in a constant state of suspended grief. She was supposed to go quickly, but my mom was a fighter, even when her body was failing her. She declined slowly, agonizingly. It was during the last month, when Mom was mostly confined to bed, losing her peripheral vision, struggling to hear anything beyond a shout, and needing help for every single bodily function, that I found out about the affair. It wasn't a whisper I overheard. It was a file my dad, we'll call him Richard, carelessly left open on the family computer, a damning email chain with Mom's best friend, Cynthia. The language wasn't just supportive. It was intimate, deeply loving, and talked about a future that didn't include my dying mother. I confronted Richard in the kitchen, away from Mom's room. It felt surreal, like a terrible movie scene. "What is this?" I hissed, holding my phone with a picture of the email, my hands shaking so violently I thought I'd drop it. He went pale, absolutely chalky. Richard tried to spin it immediately. He claimed, with this pathetic, defeated look in his eyes, that he and Cynthia were just leaning on each other through this impossible grief, that it was a mistake, born of stress, and that it wasn't supposed to hurt anyone, especially Mom. That lie was the second tumor in my life. The first was in my mother's head. The second was in my father's soul. I told him I was done. Right there. I packed a duffel bag, walked out, and moved in with my maternal grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa M, who lived only 20 minutes away. Richard tried to stop me, pleading with me to think of your mother, which just made me sick. I told him I was thinking of my mother, and I couldn't breathe the same air as him. I barely even went back to the house to see Mom, always insisting he not be in the room, which, thankfully, Grandpa M enforced for me. When Mom passed away a few weeks later, I was holding her hand. Her breathing just stopped. It was quiet, peaceful, and the most devastating thing I've ever experienced. I went home to Grandma and Grandpa M's place immediately after the hospice nurse pronounced her time of death. The day of the funeral was when the remaining scaffolding of my world collapsed. Cynthia had the audacity to be there, dressed in a muted black suit, looking appropriately tearful. At the reception, a distant cousin, obviously having had too much wine and too little filter, pulled me aside. "I feel so awful for your mom," she slurred, "especially knowing they've been carrying on for so long." At least she never knew about the first one. The first one? I felt a cold dread wash over me. I cornered Richard immediately, dragging him into the laundry room where the smell of detergent and bleach seemed appropriate for the filth I was about to hear. That's when the truth spilled out, not in a rush, but in agonizing, measured confirmations. The affair wasn't a recent grief mistake. It started years before Mom got sick. Richard admitted they had been seeing each other on and off since I was around 7 or 8. And the part that felt like a physical blow, he admitted Cynthia had gotten pregnant when I was 7. They terminated the pregnancy. Not because of their careers, not because they weren't ready, but to keep the secret from my mother. A choice made to protect their comfort and Mom's ignorance, not an actual choice about a child's life. He confirmed it. Every sick, twisted detail. That was the end. All contact stopped that day. I moved my few remaining boxes out of Richard's house, leaving him a short, cold note stating that he was dead to me, and that I hoped he enjoyed the life he built on my mother's betrayal. I also told Grandpa and Grandma P, my paternal grandparents, exactly where I stood. I loved them, but I told them clearly, I want zero contact with Richard or Cynthia. I told them if they invited me over and Richard or Cynthia were there, I wouldn't come. If they tried to mediate, they'd lose me too. They promised they understood and respected my decision. I focused on school, therapy, and healing with the help of my amazing Grandma and Grandpa M. They were my true family. They validated my anger, supported my grief, and never, ever pressed me to forgive Richard. Fast forward 7 years. I'm 23. I've graduated college, I have a decent entry-level job, and I'm finally renting a small, cozy apartment a few towns over. Life is stable, quiet, and Richard and Cynthia are just a painful memory I managed to keep in a locked box. Then, a few weeks ago, the phone rang. It was Grandma P. Her voice was thick with tears. She delivered the news in a trembling rush. Richard and Cynthia were dead. A terrible, freak car accident on the highway. Instantaneous. My first thought, and I hate myself for it, was simply relief. The box was sealed for good. I didn't cry. I felt a chill, then nothing. But the call wasn't over. Grandma P's voice shifted from mourning to a plea, heavy with urgency. Ilara, they had a daughter. A little girl. She's 2 years old. No arrangements were made for her. They didn't have wills, nothing. The air went out of my lungs. A child. A consequence I never allowed myself to imagine. She's in temporary foster care right now. Grandma P continued, her voice hitching. Cynthia's family was contacted. They live out of state and said they couldn't take her. Richard's closest blood relative is you, Ilara. You're her half-sister. The proposition followed, the reason for the call, naked and desperate. We need you to call the social worker. We need you to say you want to take her in. We'll help you. Financially, with everything. We'll sign over some property, whatever it takes. But she needs a home, Ilara. She's your sister. The words felt like stones being thrown at me. My sister. The child of the man who destroyed my family and the woman who pretended to be my mom's friend while sleeping with him. A living, breathing monument to my mother's final, miserable years. I took a slow, agonizing breath, trying to keep the raw, choking fury out of my voice. No, I said, the word a flat, definitive boundary. I am not contacting anyone. I am not taking in a random child. Grandma P gasped. She is not some random child, Ilara. She is your flesh and blood. Forget the half. Forget the affair. Forget who her parents were. Look at the child. The only people who can take her are us. That is not true, I countered, my voice low and firm. She is a child in the system. There are thousands of innocent children in the system who need a home. That's how I see her. And if you are so concerned about the lack of a home, then you too can take her. You are her paternal grandparents. You are the adults. I didn't waver. Grandma P started crying in earnest, talking about their age, their health, the difficulty of raising a toddler in their late 60s. I acknowledged it, but held my ground. This was their choice to make, not a burden to be shoved onto me as the closest, youngest relative. My life was finally my own, and I refused to set it on fire for a situation that was never, ever mine to fix. My refusal didn't end the conversation. It started a full-blown pressure campaign. Grandpa P called me the next day. He tried the softer approach. Just meet her once, Ilara. Look at her little face. See Richard in her eyes. It will change your mind. No. Absolutely not, I repeated, feeling the ice around my heart thicken. I am not meeting her. My decision is firm. You too can take her in, but you will not have my help, my support, or my involvement. I will not be a part-time aunt or a weekend sitter. If you take her, she will be your responsibility, and I will maintain the distance I've always had. This apparently was not the answer they wanted. They wanted the full, Hallmark movie redemption, the grieving, forgiving older sister stepping in to save the innocent sibling. I wasn't that person. The betrayal had killed that part of me. When they realized I wouldn't take her, they tried to enlist my maternal grandparents. This was a catastrophic mistake. Grandma P called Grandma M and started laying into her. They told Grandma M that it wasn't good for me to hold such a cold, unforgiving stance against a relative and that I was damaged by my lingering hatred for Richard. They pressed Grandma M to talk some sense into me, to convince me to at least have a relationship with the child, to be an aunt figure. Grandma M, God bless her soul, didn't hesitate. She told Grandma P exactly where they could go, reminding them that they were talking about the daughter of the woman who destroyed their family and hastened their own daughter's death by causing her immense stress and pain. Grandma M then called me, not to scold, but to give me a heads up and tell me she was proud of me for protecting my peace. That call was the line. I called Grandpa P and Grandma P back, my voice shaking with a cold rage I hadn't felt since I was 16. You crossed a line, I said. You involved the only family who helped me survive your son's betrayal. I told you what I wouldn't do. I told you that you were welcome to take the child, but that I would not be involved. You are now trying to manipulate the situation, and you are speaking ill of me to my only support system. I issued the ultimatum, knowing it was the last conversation we would ever have if they didn't comply. If you contact Grandma M or Grandpa M again, or if you bring this child up to me again, I am cutting off all contact with both of you. Whether you take the child or not, I will block you. This is not my problem, and I refuse to make it my problem. They begged. They cried. They said they couldn't possibly stop. They promised they would. They lasted 5 days. Then, the calls to my grandparents started again, and they started telling other relatives things about me, that I was a cruel, vengeful child, that I had mommy issues that made me incapable of love, and that I was forcing them to raise this child alone out of spite. They were desperate, and they were trying to shame me into submission. I kept my word. I blocked both of their numbers. I blocked their emails. I changed my privacy settings on all social media. The silence is deafening, but it's clean. I know the child is innocent. I know she didn't choose her parents. But I also know that there are countless innocent children in the system whose existence is not tied, limb by limb, to the most painful, corrosive, and unforgivable betrayal of my entire life. She's a reminder, a walking, talking, breathing mirror of the reason my mother died with a hole in her heart. I spent 7 years building a life out of the wreckage my father and his mistress created. I refuse to sacrifice my sanity and my peace to raise their living monument. I don't want to stop them from rescuing her. That's their decision. All I told them was what I wouldn't do. Am I the a-hole for refusing to save my half-sister, refusing to help my grandparents, and cutting off all contact with them to protect my peace? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.